You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.
Okay, it's Thursday morning, and where else would you be on a Thursday morning but with us here on LA Talk Radio? I'm Katerina Cozias, your host, and you are watching LA40. That's right, this is where we meet every Thursday morning, and I am so excited because today I have two in-studio guests. If you've been watching the last couple of weeks, you've known that we were doing phone dial-ins, and I was all alone, so I'm so happy to have two beautiful people with me. I'm going to say good morning to Bruce Lowe. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Katerina. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And Sylvie Yarza. Hi, Sylvie.
Hi, Katerina.
All right, so today we are talking music mastery. How many of you out there had aspirations, had dreams of being a rock star when you were a kid, right? Put your hand up. Not me. I'm actually one of the least musical people you're ever going to come across in your life. But thankfully, the world balances out itself. And the two people I have with me are taking that end of the spectrum and blowing it up. So we're going to start with Bruce, who is a musical veteran in the best sense of the word. Not to call you old, Bruce, not to call you old, but you have been in the business here in Hollywood for years, and you have worked with some of the greatest talents of our generation. Sylvie is originally from France, who has come to Hollywood to do just that, pursue the American dream, right? Which is not just a dream that Americans have, but it's a dream of becoming, a master in your field that really is, America is one of the places that gives you that opportunity. So we're going to delve into both of your stories because the interesting thing is one of you is coming from a place of having done this for a very long time. Both of you have, because Sylvie is quite talented and quite reputable in her own art, but is coming at Hollywood from a different angle. So we're going to delve into all of that. But first, Bruce. All right, you have worked with, come on now, Elton John, you've worked with Paul McCartney, you've worked with Quincy Jones, you have worked with Michael Jackson, Madonna, my God, the list goes on. How is it working with musical greats?
Everybody is everybody's teacher. So it is fantastic, actually. Each one of the people that you named, it was an extreme honor to work with each one of them. And I hope that we taught each other and all grew together as each other's teachers.
Right. I was going to say you're primarily a music producer and a composer, but I want to take it back a little bit, back a ways, and we're going to get into Sylvie's backstory as well, because I always like sort of looking at the roots. Back in the 70s, you were one of the people that was instrumental in almost inventing the synthesizer. Talk to me about electronic music.
Well, it wasn't actually the analog synthesizer that I was a part of inventing. That was a part of the stepping stone to get to my dream, which was when I was a child. I started playing at 4 years old and listening to my sisters play piano, and I would then, after they'd get done with their lessons, I would emulate them. And then I started tearing apart all kinds of electronic gear that my dad would bring home, such as tape recorders or radios or anything electronic I could get my hands on. So that started a dream that I had.
What was the dream?
Which was to make computers talk. Now, I'm dating myself because at that time there was no such thing. Today, that's all we know. But the idea was to be able to translate the analog into digital so that we could then use that as our recording media, or medium rather. And that is what we did. I started out, a few people, as I was working with analog synthesizers and also working my way through college at Ohio State University, then I got a call from Alan Perlman, who is the inventor of the ARP synthesizer. He gave me an opportunity to go to Berklee School of Music in Boston, and once again, everybody was everybody's teacher, including the electronic music professors at Berklee. And we were going through analog with it. At this time, we hadn't gotten into the digital part of it. That dream was still alive and well, but I did make it known what I wanted to be a part of inventing. So what happened after I got done graduating, I got a opportunity of a lifetime. I was 21, I believe, years old, and I got to work with Stevie Wonder. So I moved from Columbus, Ohio, out to LA.
So wait, I'm just going to stop you right there. So you move. So here you are. You're in Boston. You're 21 years old. You're sort of starting to live your dream, and you get a call saying, "Do you want to work with Stevie Wonder?" You got to talk to me about how that felt. I mean, were you on cloud nine? Were you thinking, "Oh my God, off I go to Hollywood"?
I absolutely was. That was another dream that I had, which was eventually I'll work my way up to working with one of the greatest ever in pop music, R&B, and that be Stevie Wonder. And so getting a call from him, I really had to act like I was cool
professional
talking to him, right? And here I am, a kid from Columbus, Ohio.
You're in the back doing your cartwheels, right? After
Exactly.
you hang up the phone.
Yeah, he couldn't see the dancing going on.
Right.
So then, of course, I accepted, came out to LA, and he provided the economic means to ship some people in. A guy, Harry Mandrell from Philadelphia, and then a couple of guys from Australia that soon became the Fairlight Company. And I knew the analog, and I knew how to tear things apart and knew what wires went where in order to create the voltage control frequency, every envelope generator, and so on. So
this is guy stuff, Sylvie. I don't know about the technical stuff. Maybe now I'm being genderphobic right now. But anyway, go on.
And I'll cut back on the technical side of it. But what I did not know is how to code the numbers. And that's where Harry in particular came in. So I had a whole lot of synthesizers at this time, as well as Stevie had a boatload of synthesizers. And we started tearing those apart, drilling holes in them in order to get wires through them and pitch benders and so on. But the main intention was for a computer, at that time it was a PC, for the computer to be able to read what was happening analog and translate it into numbers in order to digitize it.
Okay.
And
so this is really the early stages of moving all of this onto a computer platform.
Exactly right.
Wow.
Exactly. At this point, we're all using tape machines, analog tape machines for recording. And so what happened is we were in fact successful at doing this. And on the record, The Secret Life of Plants, which is the first record I was working on with Stevie, has some of the very first digital sounds recorded for them. Sony also brought in a digital tape deck, but it was sort of half and half, where it was run on tape. But
I need to ask Sylvie. Growing up, did you ever have a synthesizer? Were you given one as a child?
Actually, I did.
I'm going to need you to.
sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I did have a little one, but I didn't play piano for a long time. So
Okay. What was your instrument of choice?
I started actually with saxophone.
Oh, you started with saxophone.
Yeah,
That's
I started with
interesting. That's an interesting
saxophone.
one. I'm going to get back to Bruce in just a minute. So then, Bruce, you saw the vision of this translate. Was it immediately appreciated and adopted by the music industry, or was it a hard sell?
It was a simple sell.
Okay.
It was so easy, it changed everything. Changed the cost of making records and films and TV shows. It changed everything. Today, it's the primary medium to use, the digital formats that is used internationally to this day. Even though we often do use tape, and I generally use it 100% of the time on a project at some point, although
that kind of feels like the old school cameras where you really would go into the dark room with your film.
Right.
But
right,
now
exactly.
you have your iPhone.
That's a great way to put it. That's
and
exactly
so you've got
right.
the tape on the music side, and it's
you end up taking many
more
Right.
pictures that you never look
Too
at,
many,
right?
maybe.
And it's funny that you
Exactly.
talk about digital, Bruce, because with Sylvie, she has a new record out, a new album. And I asked her to please send through some music so that we could play it a little bit later in the segment. And of course, it came through MP3 format, which is digital, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you to
Compressed.
Bruce for that, right?
Thank you.
Well, I was just a
We should
part of it.
we should start calling you like the what's his name, the Bill Gates of music, maybe.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'm very humbled by the experience. It took a lot of minds and a person to help finance it and so
Right,
on.
and the
So
whole thing.
it took a whole lot of us to
Now
be able to do it.
you worked sort of that back end. How did you move into collaborating on a production level with some of these greats? I really want to get into a story. For example, Paul McCartney. Talk to me about that experience. He's one of the greatest living artists on the planet, right? Had to be an interesting experience.
It was, I felt at home with Paul. Basically, to take a half step back, the contact through that was, again, Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
And so he was getting ready to go to the Bahamas to record Ebony and Ivory with Paul McCartney. And that is how I
Got on that
right,
train.
exactly
Amazing.
right. So, and I got along with Paul so well that it kind of was like I felt like a dad-son type of a thing. He'd say, "Sit down, kid, let me teach you about the business." And I ate it up.
Yes. Well, what I love about you, Bruce, is that you are now doing that in return for emerging artists in this city. I want to go to Sylvie for just a moment. Sylvie, who were some of your musical heroes, if you will, back when you were growing up?
Well,
So you grew up in France.
yes, I grew
Okay.
up in France.
You were playing the saxophone.
Yes, when I was a teenager. but I left only 3 years, and
Okay.
then I really jumped into singing.
Okay.
So I did study the classical bel canto,
Okay.
operatic
Yep.
singing.
Uh-huh.
But then I had to change technique.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Because I was more attracted by songs that were more traditional, like because I'm half Spanish. I mean, I'm Basque, so I was very attracted by the tango, boleros. Even though I was French, the Spanish culture was more interesting, vocally speaking, because they use their voice.
Right.
There's more takeoff. In French, the melodies are very, very beautiful, but at the time, at least, the singers weren't like singer with a very powerful voice. And as
Although you did have an Edith Piaf who was French, who
and
had that
yes,
powerful
and I was,
voice,
yeah, I was-
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I ended up actually singing a lot of Edith Piaf. I even
Okay.
have Edith Piaf tribute show.
Uh-huh.
And and then here in around this area, Los
Yeah.
Angeles, I'm called on regular date for to sing Edith Piaf.
Ah,
And
so
I love it, I love it.
we heard of Bruce's story of how he moved himself from, where were you born, Bruce?
In Columbus, Ohio.
In Ohio. So
Yes.
Ohio to Boston and then over to Los Angeles.
Correct.
Sylvie, what was your path? How did you end up in Hollywood?
Wow, good question. I don't know.
Now, did
Well,
you grow up dreaming of being in Hollywood or being...
I was always attracted, but for European, when you grow up as a kid, it's through TV, through the movies.
Right.
You see another world. I'm like, oh, it looks different out there. Always sunny in California, very green, with palm trees and that. So I liked that, and I loved the music coming from there, because believe it or not, but we were under the American imperialism after
Right.
Somehow there was still because through the radios we would hear all these songs, and for
Yeah.
me it was
I'm
like,
gonna get you
oh,
moving just a
sorry.
little bit because you have a
Yes.
faint voice.
Okay,
And
yes.
and so
I
just
don't
yell.
project that much when I
That's
speak.
okay. Yeah.
That's not different when I
Okay.
sing. But I was very curious to understand the words, to understand the message through those songs. But that happened only when I was a teenager, when I learned English at school.
Okay, yeah.
And yes, of course, I knew one day I will go out there. But I started with New York. But it is not music that took me to New York, but painting, because I first had a painting career, and I'm a painter as well.
Okay.
And
Bruce, do you paint?
No, I don't.
Okay. I am always curious when artists can cross over because
Right.
I'm not musical or a painter. So the fact that you're both, again, you see the world balances itself. I love it. So New York brought you for painting.
for studying for the Art Student League for painting, and but then after I started being passionate with tango as a dancer, I became a tango dancer. Then that took me back to singing.
Okay.
Through the dancing, through the tango, and that's why I had to switch my technique, my vocal technique, from operatic
Okay.
to tango. That is much more visceral, much more guttural.
To
It's
sing
really
tango.
different. Yeah, it's very.
Can you sing a little bit of tango now?
Oh, that's gonna be
I
dramatic.
don't want to put you on the spot, but
It's
I don't know
dramatic.
what tango sound. I know. I mean,
Really?
when you think about it, right? You think of being in the south of Spain and tangoing and what's his name? Antonio Banderas maybe comes to my mind, but I certainly don't think of singing a tango. Interesting. We'll have to Google that later.
Oh well, yeah.
Unless you're willing to do a little
Let's see
improv,
if
but I
let's see
don't
if
want you to strain your
know,
voice.
It's been
A long time.
I stepped away from tango because
okay.
it was too dramatic, too nostalgic, and melancholic.
Bruce, did you ever work with any Latino artists?
I have hired a lot of Latino artists, being engineers and technicians and that kind of thing. We've also recorded a lot of Latin music through an artist that I absolutely adore, Andre Crouch, and gospel superstar who actually passed away 2 years ago, and possibly my biggest mentor musically. And so we always included Latin songs on the record, so we would hire the authentic people to do it, and I absolutely love Latin music.
Well, you know, the Grammy nominations have come out now, and one of the big songs up for Best Song of the Year, Best Album of the Year is the Latin song. The name escapes me now, but you all know it. It's been playing all summer. Justin Bieber helped to collaborate with the English to Spanish version of it.
Despacito.
That's the one. There you go. See, she will sing on this episode. That's right. No, it's
the summer song.
I think part of the beauty of music is that it really transcends cultural lines, at least boundaries the way we have them on a map. And I think for you, Sylvie, coming from a place in Europe where you were partly in the French culture, partly in the Spanish culture, you had the American influence, of course, because the entire world does. Your music is very rich with respect to cultural beats and cultural influence. You have something interesting now, Bruce. You're gonna appreciate this. I know you know a little bit of Sylvie's story. So we have Sylvie, the singer-songwriter, who we saw this a little bit in mainstream with Beyonce and her alter ego Sasha Fierce. You also have an alter ego.
Yes. It's just
Luna Boreal. Talk to Bruce and I a little bit about Luna Boreal.
So Luna Boreal is actually born like a few weeks ago.
Okay. Oh, you just decided to alter ego yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
I would like to do that too.
It's another adventure for me, but I had to take the decision because of the circumstances, the social media, the entire world changing when it comes to
how to market music,
how to market yourself, and your own activities.
Okay.
And in my case, because I've been doing so many things in that field, also as a singer.
Okay.
I also do dubbing, voiceover, you know. So I ended up with a website with all that. I'm also an actress. So and then it's interesting, of course. It's great, but when you go online, it might be confusing.
Okay.
Because people want to see one thing. Like if you're a songwriter, singer, it's good to create that world and to just stay with that world.
And then take the art or the acting into another platform. So which one is the singer and which one is the rest? Luna or Sylvie?
They're both the singer. So let's say they're different singers. Let's say it's even confusing for me, believe me. I'm still getting used to it. So there's the Sylvie Yarza, who actually sings also covers.
Okay.
Edith Piaf tribute show, tangos, whatever, anything in French, English, Spanish, German, Italian. And then there's the songwriter, Luna Boreal. That write the lyrics, do the music, do everything.
Okay,
basically.
the back end.
Yeah, so it's my world. It's more like that's what I like. That's who I am. And
okay, and Sylvie is just the singer.
Yeah, Sylvie's
sort
the
of
singer.
Right. So what will your stage name be if I want to book you next week? Am I booking Sylvie or am I booking Luna? Or do we know?
Oh my God, it haven't happened yet, so I'll have to.
Okay, you'll figure it out. What depends what mood you're in.
I think it will be, if I get booked, I think so far I'm being booked at Sylvie Yarza.
Okay.
Because I get hired for my voice.
Sure.
Either I have to go and sing the Canadian anthem in Las Vegas, San Diego.
Right,
I just came back from Montreal. I was there in the summer.
And being a Canadian, I'm partial to the Canadian anthem. So there we go.
That's my favorite anthem. So beautiful. I love it.
Bruce, I have a question for you. So you get Sylvie, and she is trying to compartmentalize her talents. Have you run into that same issue over the course of your career? Because you've produced, you've composed. Do you sing?
I do.
Okay. Because you kind of remind me a little bit of a Kenny Rogers kind of. Do you do Western?
No, it's more pop rock.
Okay, okay.
If I sing.
Right. Okay. Who did you aspire to be as a rock star growing up? Who was your influence?
You know, I'm very eclectic, so I absolutely loved a lot of stuff. Classical music, so the instrumental stuff. I loved the opera, but
You wanted to be Bach?
Yeah, definitely.
There you go.
Mozart.
Or Mozart, absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't go wrong with either one of those. And then, you know, from jazz to rock and pop and so on.
Okay.
So I never had a real favorite as far as trying to aspire, because I never really thought I'd be in front. I was kind of shy. In bands, when I was in high school and junior high school, we'd play at the dances and I was the lead singer. But I was too shy to pursue a career in that. I wanted to make the records, films, and television shows. So
What
more
films and
behind the
television
scenes.
shows have you worked on?
Well, some that your listeners may know are worked on with Steven Spielberg, worked on The Color Purple.
I like how modest he is. You may have heard of this, but I did some work with Steven Spielberg. Keep going.
and that was with Quincy Jones and Andre Crouch. And then The Lion King, same thing. Elton John wrote the songs. Hans Zimmer did the score, and then Andre and I, who I was producing Andre at that time, then put all of the arrangements together on Elton's songs. And Elton had already been a client of mine for a while, so we got along well. Love that guy too. And so those films, amongst a whole stream of other things, but also we're doing one right now that has to do, that's based around some Buddy Holly songs, a bunch of them, and it's called That'll Be the Day. We're in pre-production right now.
Yeah, that's a great song, right? That'll be the
isn't
day.
it?
I remember
That's
my
a
mom
classic.
used to have a big classic Ford back. This was probably, oh gosh, I must have been 3 or 4, so late 70s, early 80s. And we used to listen to Billie Holiday in the car. Yeah.
Absolute classic stuff.
Yeah. Amazing. Those are great. Those are great. And I'm sure that you have seen just a ton of changes in the industry. I want to get to that in just a
Yes.
moment. But I want to bounce back to Sylvie because I had asked you this question and then we sort of went off track. Who were some of your musical inspirations?
Okay, so in France, all the classicals, the Jacques Brel, Edith Piaf. I mean, actually, Jacques Brel is from Belgium, but all the classic French, and in Spain, the boleros, and in English language, I like very much Leonard Cohen.
Well, Leonard Cohen was such
Leonard
a classic,
Cohen.
right?
It's
Such
like-
a talent.
Yeah. And so it's really eclectic. I don't have like a specific one. I mean, Leonard Cohen was one of them. But,
Right. And what I've kind of, again, because I don't have a musical bone in my body, my parents made us take piano, my sister and I, for years. Neither one of us was musical, unfortunately, but the one thing that I do notice with musician friends of mine is, for the most part, when you have a love of music, you really have a love of all of it. You know, you can be really respectful and appreciative of the different genres and some of the influences to pull from that. I have a very talented friend who is Nigerian-based, IBK. You may know him as Spaceship Boy. He's been on the program. He was a guest of mine via phone about 8 months ago, and he is working on a world music project. Literally, his mission is to go to every country in the world and create a song from the cultural background of that country with some of the musical greats. And so we wish him all the best of luck with
great.
that.
Sure do.
But
Yeah.
again, just talking about the global elements
Yeah.
in music. I want to
Absolutely.
share with the audience a moment one of your new songs.
Mm-hmm.
We have it here, so stay tuned if you're a music lover. This one now is going to be released under the name Luna Boreal or under the
Yes.
name Sylvie?
Luna Boreal.
Okay, so this is Luna Boreal, a.k.a.
My alter ego.
the alter ego. And this is called Breathe Into Me. We're going to listen to a little bit of it, and then I'd like you to talk to us about the inspiration. All right, so here we go.
Breathe into me. Surrender to the void. There's no use for any words. Keep silence to be safe. Our bodies hold the truth.
So that is just a taste of your new song. Is that you playing the instruments as well?
I am playing. I usually compose with my guitar.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of all my traveling, even though I start playing piano, guitar ended up being easier to travel
Right. You can
with.
just bring it with you.
Now
right.
we finally able to take any flight with a guitar. You know?
Yeah, which is finally. Yes. You
And
can't take your computer anymore, but you can
no.
take your guitar.
And then, so I do the basic. I'm more. My instrument is really my vocal cords. You know,
Okay,
that's
okay.
When you play an instrument, you play it like 3-4 hours a day.
Right.
That's what I do.
Okay, with the voice,
For the
right.
voice, when I have a show, I can even like practice 6-7 hours a day.
so you
So
have. Yes, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I basically compose with the guitar the basic chords,
Mm-hmm.
but then for any recording, of course, I usually have a second guitar
Okay.
that would do the solos and the improvisation
Gotcha.
over the basic
Over the
chords.
bass, right,
Yeah.
right. Now, you breathe into me. Where do you get your inspiration when you're writing? What inspired this song and those lyrics?
Well, in this song in particular, because it's a bit intimate, I will not be able to talk about it.
Okay.
But usually, it's really, and it's not even like scientific. It's really I get into a state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it changes all the time.
Okay.
It's really I wait
Pull
for the
from all
inspiration.
over.
The inspiration comes here and there,
Sure.
depending of the day and
What's
and I
going
just
on in your
add
life.
the elements.
Okay.
You know, because my first album was much more concept oriented in every song.
Okay. Meaning what? What does that
More,
mean?
not concept, but more like emotionally oriented. Like,
Okay.
you know, usually artists end up always composing and writing when they feel sad or something, because when they're
It's a
happy, then they're
release,
just
right?
enjoying, you know?
Right.
So that's why we have so
Sure.
many more sad songs or sad love songs in the world than happy songs.
Right, right.
And you know, so I'm part of them, you know.
Yes.
So my first album was more like that.
Okay.
But I'm kind of stepping away from it because in my life really also want to be lighter and I'm looking more like to create an atmosphere.
Right, with your music.
Yeah,
right.
and to talk about something maybe that is not related to a relationship.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
think that's very liberating as well.
Is using your music for other flow. Bruce,
Yeah.
where do you get your musical inspiration from when you're creating?
I usually have a real picture in front of me or an imaginary picture in front of me.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means that, think of if you're watching a movie
Okay.
and it's actually a made-up movie and there's nothing there, but I'm really feeling it. It's character-driven on just about everything I write. And I try to keep a relative spiritual level on it, but I mean that very humbly because I want it to be commercial enough to sell and stay in business with. But at the same time, I'm always seeing things that are in front of me that create the rhythmic motion. It dictates a certain flow of instruments, the selection of the instruments, whether orchestrated or just a three-piece guitar, bass, drums. And the stories usually are about characters also. But it's life experience, and as Sylvie was saying about love songs too, it's like, what's the old saying, if there was never a broken heart, there'd never be a love song. And so...
Right, because you're too busy making love to be writing music when you're happy, right?
Right.
Exactly. Say, Bruce, question for you, because we had the opportunity to meet through some circles a few months back. And part of what we touched on was the energy and the frequency of music. And a couple of my shows lately, we've been talking about the art of manifesting, the art of tapping into a vibration. And you had mentioned that music has different frequencies. Can you talk just a little bit about the quantum physics, I suppose, behind music?
Well, thank you for asking.
Now I'm going to call you Einstein. So we went from Bill Gates to Mozart to Einstein. We've got it all here, folks.
Well, yes, thank you for asking. It's truly my passion right now. After working every day with Stevie Wonder, then I started a company called Cinema Show Music, and it's cinemashowmusic.com for anyone who would like to visit the website. And I was always studying psychoacoustics along with the communication of music to people. I always felt it was healing.
I was going to say psychoacoustics. You've got to just explain that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Psychoacoustics
Yeah.
are the basically even though sound reaches every fiber of our body, the neurological system is moved, whether we know it or not, by sounds we can hear or sounds we cannot hear. That has to do with notes that are played. It has to do with whether one is creating healing music itself, its frequencies of those sounds. And so I would visit, for example, hospitals and or nursing homes, that kind of thing. And it would be to play music for these people, and I'd fall in love with them. If a person had Alzheimer's, for example, and you put music on them, and if they're not combative to the point of accepting the headphones, their head raises, the smile comes on their face, they sit up, they just are enjoying things. The same thing with, for example, pediatrics oncology with children, and we'd go and play and once again fall in love with these kids. But it was the same thing as they're going through all the pain of chemotherapy and everything to try and save their lives, which some of them did make it and some of them did not. But meantime, we're trying to make their journey through this disease the best we possibly can. So then I realized what kind of healing power there was, so I started a foundation called Music Has Healing Power. And that is musichashealingpower.org for anybody interested in that. At that point, just continuing to study, because it's totally relevant to producing music also in my own.
The vibration is relevant?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The vibration.
So I was going to say, so there's got to be a different vibration when you're listening to hip hop than when you're listening to gospel than when you're listening to tango, right?
There absolutely is. I mean, if you're listening to hip hop, and if it's coming, back in the urban inner city, you've got your jackhammers, you've got the cars rotating as they're driving, and so on. It creates rhythmic motion that goes into people's souls via their neurological system. Generally, it's the same thing with sounds we can't hear.
Are there a lot of sounds we can't hear out there?
There
I'm kind of worried about
absolutely
this now.
And so to segue into how that works, everything has sound. It creates the vibration, sort of like you would think of a crystal glass, and a singer that can sing and break that crystal glass with the vibrations of their voice. Taking those ideas, they have scientists as well as music professors and so on have been able to come up with a frequency that is between 100,000 to 300,000 hertz. So I think this is kind of a good example because we can't hear that. We can hear up to 20,000 hertz as human beings.
So at the 100,000 or the 300,000, you're getting a lot of power? Is that what's behind the higher hertz?
You're getting a pulsation that has been put into human bodies to, in order to attempt to obliterate cancer cells.
Disease. Wow.
And it, in fact, is proving out to be extremely fantastic. I urge anyone to check this out because the intention is the chemo is very painful. I've lived it with many people, including my wife, and gone through years and years of that. I've seen the pain. And we want to alleviate that from the people in order to do it. I believe
and this
it's
is what your
something-
foundation helps to do?
Well, we do the things that I was talking about, which is go to different locations. We give we're giving instruments to different individuals. It's kind of like planting the seed so they can carry on with the music and that healing themselves. Yet at the same time, the scientific method of it is to actually help cure disease. And
the pharmaceutical companies are not going to be too happy with this, right?
No,
How simple
absolutely.
can we sing, and vibrate our way out of disease? Wow.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because they're going to have to figure out how to harness the economics of it
Yes,
all.
right.
And that's
well, then they
sort of
pay
the
people like
downfall.
Sylvie a lot of money to sing
Yeah,
her
to
way
sing,
into it.
right,
When you were
exactly.
talking about the crystal glass, Sylvie said, I tried that once. Did you manage to break the glass?
No, I didn't.
No, she didn't. But
That's a tough one to do.
what you're saying, but what he's saying is absolutely fascinating, Bruce, because not only are you creating something new, but you are on the cutting edge of something that could be life-changing for so many people.
Absolutely,
Wow.
and it's
Wow.
looking very positive.
Incredible.
Yes,
The
right.
results of this study that I was just mentioning of zapping these cancer cells has proven out to be about 65% effective right now, which in my opinion is excellent, and also painless. So-
Also painless. Wow.
Right. So
Wow.
consequently, it
Yeah.
filters into the music itself,
Right, yeah.
the healing power of the music, the positive of it. Whether it is a broken heart, whether it's blues, whether it's
Yeah,
classical
right.
music, it really is healing, and it makes people just feel. Now, one interesting thing I'd like to mention too with that is there was a point when my wife was in a coma. And things were really serious. And so we were around and we heard stories about they could still hear, so talk to them and so on. Well, the story turned out great because from her colon cancer, stage 4 colon cancer, she's became in remission, and she came out of the coma, obviously, and she was able to tell us what we were talking about as well as the music we were playing and so on. So, in other words, a coma is irrelevant to the subject. You can still feel that vibration, you can still hear the sounds, and you can still have a smoother ride as far as it all goes,
Right,
and
just
possible healing.
Through the music. That's fantastic. Sylvie, how often have you been felt that healing power?
Oh,
do you
yeah.
sing to soothe yourself?
You know, I'll tell you something that's quite personal that I only tell my friends, but
But
because
we'll
it
tell
was-
everybody
yeah, why
here.
not? You know, it's I did discover the sound healing
Okay.
because it happened to me automatically. I was in New York at the time. I was more of a painter, and I was not feeling so good. You know, New York is quite a bit frenetic city to.
There's a lot of energy there in New York.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's fascinating. I love it. But I was, especially being a painter, I was getting a bit too lonely and these things. So I was off. I went off balance emotionally, or psychologically, and I did fall asleep. And I woke up actually singing some like Indian sounds, something healing, because I woke up after 3 hours and I was feeling extremely well.
Wow.
And so my throat, my system just
Wow.
just did that. And I'm like, oh my God.
And were you singing in a language you didn't even recognize?
No, it was more like
But sort of a
sounds, you know, like
right, yeah.
like when
Wow.
they do these sounds, and it was really automatic. I didn't do anything. I didn't know how to get better actually. But then, since then, you know, I do a lot of yoga. I went into all these trainings,
sort of mindful
also.
practices,
Yes,
right?
the
Bruce, have you heard of something like this before? Sort of, you know, people healing themselves through music?
Absolutely. It's the same thing with all of this. The psychoacoustics actually then filter in big time to the healing music that people hear and listen to, commercial music, not non-commercial. If you seek out this music, it doesn't necessarily have to be top 40, even though it can be. But generally, you can seek this out where the part of the singing, it's absolutely healing. It doesn't even need to be conscious with individuals. It really is there 24/7, sleep or no.
I wonder, this sort of what triggered in my head was a lullaby, right?
Yes.
We put our
Yeah.
kids to sleep,
Exactly right.
and we play the music quietly, and we lullaby them to sleep. This has to be
That's right.
incredibly soothing for them, right?
Yes,
Excellent
Yeah.
point.
It's
Right.
I love kids, and I took care of my 2 half brothers and all this. So I'm really close to their sensitivity, and
Right.
yeah, they're more sensitive to all of that because they're still awakening and
Right.
discovering the world.
Right.
And so it's a good thing for me to remember that. And also when I just play with my guitar, I feel the vibration of the guitar. That's why maybe I switch from also piano to guitar, even though I love piano.
Because you can feel
you
it on
really
your body.
feel the vibration, and then
Yeah.
it makes a mix with the vibration of your chakras and your own voice. And that's, you know, it's healing at the same time.
Right.
And I think I'm, as Luna Boreal, I'm going through something, actually, my composition, I like something also that has something to do with healing. Because it does make me feel good, and I mean, so far I've heard that it makes people
Well,
feel
and
good
I was
too.
going to say, in the stats that Bruce just talked to us about, the genuine practical medical application is incredible if we actually put our efforts and our energies into that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to mention that it is scientifically provable versus just opinion.
That's great to know. All right.
Yeah.
If repeat your foundation again, Bruce, if people want to get involved.
It is called musichashealingpower.org.
There you go. All right. And Sylvie, if people want to learn more about Luna Boreal, where can they find you? Where can they go?
Well, they can find me on lunaboreal.com.
Okay.
It's just the website is just fresh out of the oven as well this morning, so there might be
Oh,
some
this morning.
glitches. Yes,
Congratulations.
I think the computer version works.
Okay.
The iPhone version still have some glitches, so we're working on it.
There you go.
But basically, yes, everything on sylvieyarza.com works. lunaboreal.com is I'm still
growing and
it's
building,
growing,
right.
and there's already some video clips
Sure.
on YouTube.
How do you feel having come to America? Are you seeing your dreams come to fruition?
Yes, for me it's always an enriching experience, and especially it's not just America, but it's just Los Angeles, because it's just so different. It's like another planet, really. I mean, and I can compare with.
And I was going to say, explain that a little bit for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Because
sorry,
it is
guys.
LA Talk Radio, but we stream internationally. So some people that haven't been to LA, what makes LA different from a New York or from wherever else you've been?
Yeah, what makes it different is that there's many creative people in all different fields. And that's unique of this city, really. And I can compare, I have reference, I've lived in Paris, Barcelona, London, Buenos Aires, New York, Berkeley, San Francisco. And that is what I missed when I to the other cities, even though I prefer, the food in Europe and like some,
and the cheese and the wine.
Right.
I do prefer other things in other cities. But then I miss the creativity. There's very open mind people that come from all over the world. It's extremely international. And of course, there's the movie industry. I'm also into the movie industry.
Right, and there's an acting element.
There's an acting element.
Yes,
There's
right.
I did also a short, so I'm also writing in that. So it's unique. And of course the good, it's
The weather is
the
beautiful.
weather, we are spoiled. Yes, we are.
It's funny because I'm originally Canadian, and so even though it's November and it's still 26 degrees, about 78 Fahrenheit, so I'm walking around in a t-shirt and sleeveless, and people are looking at me like it's the end of November, and I'm thinking, well, yes, but it's 78 degrees here. What's the problem? Bruce, you've been in this city for 40 years. How has it changed?
Greatly.
Okay, greatly to the good or the bad?
Yeah.
Well, the traffic for the bad.
Yeah.
I've seen the traffic progressively get worse. I moved here in November of 77. And in the San Fernando Valley was nothing but orange groves, horse stables. There were no buildings in 77 in the valley. And
There
so
was no Ventura Boulevard?
Well, there was.
There might have been,
Ventura,
just right, but
there was that, and most of the streets, whether it be Topanga Canyon or Reseda, whatever, going through the opposite direction of Ventura Boulevard, is that those were all there. But seeing the buildings go up it was amazing. The other growth in the city itself, but that's the biggest physical change that I've seen. The music has always, and the art from making films and television shows has always been I think it's the most creative place I can think of, and also traveling the world. That I believe it's settled in on the most
and I was going to
place.
say, and that's very similar to the comment that Sylvie just made, which is you get a sense of the creativity.
Yes.
You get a sense of people here on a mission to create, to be at the cutting edge of whatever their field is.
Right.
This is where really a lot of innovation is happening as well.
Exactly.
Bruce, I want to touch on it because I'm not going to let you go before we get here. Madonna versus Michael Jackson. Who was the better artist?
I don't know who's better. I absolutely love
different.
both of those people. They are gems of human beings, and the way that everyone got along, making records. For example,
Do you find a collaboration here, or do you find the competitive spirit outweighs that? What have you
No,
seen?
there's a lot of collaboration. Especially, it was more. I was highly collaborative with Michael Jackson. He was a family friend. He ran around with my brother. We were neighbors. And so on. With Madonna, just a sweetheart, and I'd bring Andre Crouch choir in, and we did like a prayer. Started out that way, and so on. With Michael Jackson, as we were doing Man in the Mirror with Quincy Jones and so on, then Michael would keep coming over to my studio, or I'd go to his, and we'd do things. He would be extremely creative, and he was exceptionally talented. There was no question. His voice he would use to record, such as the bass drum, or here's the snare, and so on. So we would overdub each one of these with Michael's voice to create songs and ideas that he had in his mind. Then I would just take the ball and be a little crazy also, and
just let your creativity roll.
That's
I'm going to take you out one night, and I'm going to get you drunk, and I'm going to get you to tell me all the secret dirt, because I know there is a little bit under there. But I appreciate your willingness to be gracious, and those artists, let's be honest, they are at the top of their field. That is why they are the world's greats. And I commend both of you, because both of you have also come to the table with your own sense of mastery for your art, for your music. Before we leave, Bruce, tell us where we can find you again, your website.
A couple of websites. Cinema Show Music, if you put the three words together, cinemashowmusic.com. Also, wide into that, will get you to the same website, is brucelowe.com. And then my foundation, musichashealingpower.org. And also, I forgot to mention earlier, like Sylvie, the website, this is a brand new foundation, all been set up, and it is still, we're in the formative stages of the website, so it's leaves a lot to be desired, yet should get the point across for now anyway.
Perfect, we get the content on there. And Sylvie, where can we find more of you? You repeated, you said the two websites, but can you repeat them again for us?
So it's Luna Boreal. It's like the Borealis, but the other is. lunaboreal.com. Those are for my compositions, the latest ones. And as a singer, SylvieYarza.com. Sylvie and then Yarza, Y-A-R-Z-A.
Perfect. So a lot to come from Sylvie Yarza and Luna Boreal.
Yes.
All right. On that note, I'm going to say thank you to both of us. We are going to play your song one more time, Breathe Into Me, as we bid adieu to all of our followers and listeners and viewers. Don't forget to follow me, if you could, on Instagram. That's my new favorite platform, KaterinaCozias.com. Katerina Cozias across all social media platforms. We're going to go into breathing into the day here and wishing everyone a wonderful day. Thank you both for being in studio with us today.
Thank you, Kat.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Surrender to the void. There's no use for anyone.